you are.
No.
All right, thanks for your patience. We have moved, obviously, and came out of a closed session. Next item here is consideration of June 17th, 2021 decision by Township Board. What's the wishes of the board?
I'd make a motion that we move to rescind that decision from June 17th, and for that meeting, where County was removed.
Motion made,
Support.
supported by Dave. Any discussion? If none, roll call please.
Beckley,
Yes.
Humphrey,
Yes.
Mohan, yes, John,
Yeah. Okay, at this point, based on the evidence, I want to move to remove Connie Gale from the Somerset Township Planning Commission under MCL 125.38169 for the reasons of misfeasance, malfeasance, and/or nonfeasance in the office as detailed in written charge dated August 18, 2020, as follows.
Excuse me, Supervisor, I'd like to correct that, your date was incorrect.
Okay.
It's 2020.
I stated 2020, I did 2021, please. Thank you.
Just so the record is correct.
Yes. Okay, notice of public hearing and written charges, notification and written charges regarding allegations of misfeasance.
I can't hear well.
Okay, I'll try to look up when I'm reading, can that help?
Aye.
Speak I'll try. All right. This is the notification and written charges regarding allegations of misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office as to your position as the member of the Somerset Township Planning Commission. The Township Board will hold public hearings, removal of office, blah, blah, blah. That's, do I need to read that? Nate?
Yes, blah, blah, blah.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure.
Okay, so this will be incorporated as part of the record.
This was the old letter, not today's.
Right. So this was the notice that was sent to Ms. Gill. This is notification of written charges regarding allegations of misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office as to your position as a member of the Somerset Township Planning Commission. The Township Board will hold a public hearing on your removal from office on August 24, 2021, commencing at 3 p.m. at the Township Hall. The charges are as follows. Demonstrating a desire to make the township look bad and acting with such disrespect for other township staff and officials that township staff and officials alike have gone so far as to resign because of your behavior and treatment of them, preventing the township from effectively conducting business as required. This includes, but is not limited to, your verbal abuse and public display of disrespect for Township Zoning Administrator Don Fiegel, which resulted in Mr. Fiegel's resignation, your verbal abuse of the Secretary of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and your verbal abuse and disrespect toward former Assessor Jim Bailey and present Assessor Max Griffin. Monopolizing conversation during Planning Commission meetings to such a degree that it has prevented balanced conversation and an unbiased consideration of issues and requests. Mismanagement of township funds, continuing to spend money even when directed to stop, thereby failing to carry out your fiduciary duty to the township. Refusal to complete zoning ordinance changes as required by the township board. You are invited to be present at the public hearing and will have the opportunity to be heard. So those are the written charges that.
There's
One-
one correction.
One correction.
It should be Jim Bradley, former assessor.
I just read the notice is given, so it said Jim Bailey, so that is
Okay.
incorrect.
That's the old one.
All right?
It's corrected here.
Oh, I'm sorry, then I may have the former version, Jim Bradley. So those are the written charges that would be incorporated into your motion, is that correct?
Yes. Motion was made, and we have support.
I'll support.
Support by Mike. Is there any discussion at this time? No more discussion at this time, we will go
Do you have
into.
any evidence of, any additional evidence you would want to discuss regarding the charges?
You know, we read it, list names, or just at the point? Does the,
He has none.
Yeah, go ahead, if you have any, please read them.
yeah, controlling, dominating a meeting, there again, not allowing people to speak. She's been asked again, that, she stopped spending money, not to agree to it. She was asked, even at the, planning commission meetings, had people come forward and say that she's instructed at that time, you know, stop spending money, and, she continued to do so, which put us over budget, and we had to more than once. She has an issue with listening to opposing views, and one of the large ones that I see is she was changing the wording in the minutes, and that's been going on for a while. After these charges were brought out, I've had other people come forward and say that's the way she treated me when I was a secretary, or whatever board they were on.
All right. So if there is no other evidence at the moment, then I need to reference the, whether or not, how you're treating any evidence you heard from the May 13th executive committee session in regards to this decision today.
Okay. We're on the record that the board has explicitly not considered any evidence or discussion from the May 13th executive committee. For those of you that don't know, Mike and I are the executive board for the township here, and we had a meeting to discuss the concerns that people brought before us, and the two of us, and I did not post that as a public meeting, and I should have. That was my error, and, you know, Mike participated, but, I will accept responsibility for that. And that is where we fell short on the, hosting of a meeting that even a committee of this board had. So, we didn't discuss any of those, but we discussed other issues, even some of them that come up after that.
Or anything that you discussed at the May 13th meeting will be used in the decision today?
None of the discussion there was even brought up, that Mike and I had at that point. I just read the concerns that I had from the residents. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure it's obvious, but this is the township clerk is handling, human insurance also, it's handling the situation here.
So now you are going to allow the plaintiff to present or
Well, we should move to go into public hearing, right?
Right,
Okay,
start at this step.
I will make that motion that we open public hearing.
Support.
Or by Dave, roll call please.
Reed.
Yes.
Donette, yes. Don.
Yes. We're gonna put a little ground rules on, as I explained at the beginning of this meeting. First, we're gonna offer Ms. Gale the floor, she'll have unlimited time. And then after that, if anybody else would like to speak or address the board on this issue, you'll have 3 minutes.
I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Richard Lindsay, representing MDL. I just want to ask initially, I would like to ask some questions about some additional details of what you said. I don't know what the procedure is here, so if your council doesn't have any objection to that, I'd like to do that.
If you're okay with that?
So let me, I've got the charges that were read, and again, this is in an August 18th, 2021 letter. I'm just gonna kind of go through these one by one. And so the first thing is demonstrating a desire to make the township look bad and acting with such disrespect for other township staff and officials that township staff and officials alike have gone so far as to resign. And there's some more there, but I want to ask you specifically about that. When did these things take place that you say that County Yale actually did?
So, wait a minute. Are you asking questions or are you presenting evidence on behalf of your client?
I am asking questions about what the charges are.
Okay. Okay, do you guys have information as to who the first charge was?
We basically.
Demonstrating a desire to make the township look bad or acting with disrespect so that staff and officials alike have gone so far to resign. Could you comment on have people resign or in any way respond to the skill with resignation or anything like that?
As it states in there, that named the two assessors and talked to Mike, so I guess I can let him address that. Should I go into how we got to the point of Don calling a meeting?
I mean,
Yes.
who's Mike? Because I don't know who you're talking about.
This is Mike, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Steve and then Dave.
Okay.
We should have names out here, I guess. How detailed do you want me to go?
I want, whatever evidence you wanna put on the record, the more the better.
Is Mr. Fidel here?
I don't see, no? Okay.
Okay, you don't plan to bring him to testify, right?
No.
No.
Okay.
We're going on the charges as received in the letter, and they'll respond to what evidence they have.
Let me speak to Don Fidel. Don Fidel, came in and tendered his resignation. It was after our May meeting. And he said that he felt he could no longer do the job because, of the situation we spoke about, of the, constant embarrassment in front of the public. I told him that, I would not accept his resignation, and that he would, the best thing we could do would be put him on sabbatical, and, he took a month off. So that's how that came about.
And what did he specifically say? What was the reason for him resigning? Just one, his back.
He said he had enough.
Okay, but he didn't actually resign, correct?
Explain what enough
He
is.
said, he turned in his keys, and I would not accept it.
Okay, so when it says in here that he resigned, he did not resign.
Well, he wanted to resign, and I did not accept his resignation.
So who is Jim Bradley?
Former assessor.
When did he resign?
Okay, 1 second. This is not a court hearing.
Clearly,
Okay.
because it's all hearsay, so it's clearly not a court
Well,
hearing, so.
fair enough. I mean, we'll get there, but this is your chance for your client to put her presentation on. They're telling you, they're giving you the responses as to what happened. If she would like to refute them, that's fine. We're not interrogating, this is not a court, we're not under testimony here. I'm sure we may get to that at some time. But he's telling you what happened regarding Mr. Fidel, and I forget what the last question was. He wanted to resign, but he did not accept, the resignation.
I heard a statement, and I moved on to another question.
Okay,
So my next question is Jim Bradley. When did Jim Bradley resign?
I don't have it for you. It was several years ago.
can you explain why Jim Bradley resigned?
He said that he had an opportunity at Jackson, and he, said that he had difficulties with, Connie, and that, he would be better off working for, as assistant treasurer in Jackson.
And when did he say this?
I have no idea, I don't have those records.
Was it prior to when she was reappointed in December
It
of
was
2020?
prior to that, yes.
So is Max Griffin, is he still,
He's the current assessor, we have an outside assessing company.
okay, so he's not resigned, is that correct?
No, he has not resigned. He just said he's had difficulties dealing with, Curtis and with,
Okay, and he's not here in the room, is he? I don't know him, so I'm just
he's
asking.
not in the room at this point.
Okay, so you're telling me what he told you, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay. Monopolizing conversation during the planning commission meeting, can you tell me when that took place?
Is there one of you who's on the planning commission?
Dave,
I am.
better not answer that way. If, so would.
Can you tell me when that took place?
I can't tell you the date now.
Was it, can you describe what you saw, what you heard?
Which meeting?
I'm asking you, you have stated a charge, and I'm asking you what the basis for the charge is.
Ask me the question again. Start over.
The question is monopolizing conversation during planning commission meetings to such a degree that has prevented balanced conversation and unbiased consideration of issues and requests. When did that happen?
Majority of the planning commission meetings that I've sat on.
And
I don't
tell
have the
me-
dates in front of me.
I don't know how long you've been on the planning commission, can you give me an idea?
Roughly a year.
Okay, so in a year, that would have been meet every other month?
Yes.
Okay, so 6,
Well,
Doesn't matter. I mean, he's telling you that the majority of the planning commission meetings that she has been on, she's monopolizing the conversation so that other people don't get a fair chance to participate.
so, I mean, we can argue it, but he's been on for a year, she's been off at this point for 3 months, and they meet every other month, so is that 2 meetings? I don't know, because I'm coming in fresh to this, you didn't state any of this in the, in the charges, so I
I
don't
only
know.
met once since Connie was removed.
We have a published schedule of the, planning commission meeting. So I'll give it to you.
Anything else you have to add relative to that?
No.
Mismanagement of township funds, was Mrs. Gale, was she informed about, in writing or otherwise, about spending township funds and what she was doing improperly?
I will say that the secretary of the planning commission brought it to our attention after I discussed the fact that we had, they were over budget. And it was stated more than one meeting. This is all, again, this is all purple, but it was stated more than one meeting that, don't need to go to region 2 or the attorney right now, we aren't ready for that, but it still went on and we still paid it
So who sets the budget for the planning commission?
this board.
Who reviews the bills when they come back?
That would be one for the treasurer, I guess. The bills would come back from and the attorney.
Right, correct.
Okay, so no written statement over to Mrs. Gale saying, don't spend.
I'm not aware of any written statement to her.
Was she told not to spend?
By the, I talked to, the then secretary.
So we told the planning commission secretary. to tell-
Said, you guys, well, he talked to me about their over budget, and he.
And that wasn't what you said, you said you talked to the secretary, did you tell the secretary to talk to Mrs. Gale as well?
All conversation.
Okay, so you don't know if he said anything to her or not?
I didn't, I have no idea.
Refusal to complete zoning ordinance changes, was she informed, she didn't, Mrs. Gale, was she notified or specified in writing that she was to complete the zoning ordinance?
No,
And did you have, what conversation did you have with her at all? if at all, on that?
I can't understand what you're saying.
All right, what conversation did you have with her, if any conversation at all, did you have about completing the zoning ordinance?
As far as what we want, I mean, it was basically like we discussed here last week, that we were going through the ordinances and, eliminating ordinances that we didn't need and different things like that. I can't tell you exactly, like I said, there's nothing in writing, there's nothing that, other than phone conversations or when she came into the office.
Okay, so you mentioned that it was discussed last week, was it discussed prior to her being removed from the planning commission for the first time?
What was discussed last, I didn't say last
So
week.
so you stated as a charge, refusal to complete zoning ordinance changes as required by the township board. I asked you when you discussed that with her, you said you talked about it last week. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong. If I said that, I was wrong.
Okay, tell me when you discussed it with her.
Over a period of 2 or 3 years.
But nothing in writing.
Correct.
Did you tell her over a period of time that she was to complete or continue to work on these zoning ordinance changes?
That's what
More
the
than
question
once?
was.
More than once?
More than once.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to be clear, you're not gonna bring any more witnesses in today, correct? Just the four of you sitting here?
I would say yes, that's correct.
Okay, you don't have any other documents to support other than the charges that you provided, is that correct?
Other than the notes that I took.
Any of the other, if you have any evidence other than what Tim's mentioned, what Mike has mentioned, anything else in terms of any of the charges that were written charges that were presented to the scale? Monopolizing conversations, verbal abuse and public display of disrespect for the zoning administrator or the two assessors, monopolizing conversations during planning commission meetings. Monopolizing conversations during the planning commission meetings to such a degree that it prevented balanced conversation and unbiased consideration of issues. The mismanagement of township funds, continuing to spend money even when directed to stop, thereby failing to carry out a fiduciary duty, or, as he mentioned, refusal to complete zoning ordinance changes as required by the township board. So did the township board talk about these zoning ordinance changes at all? Or how was this brought up to Ms. Gale that these changes needed to be completed, or the board wanted the planning commission to complete them?
I mean, I know we discussed it at the township board level, but we're gonna open the floor up.
Yeah.
I had gentlemen raise his hand back here. So, you know, there again, what was in the minutes, you know, I don't know, but it was just, I don't know, just general discussion. We've done business that way for years, and now obviously we can't do that, so.
So I'm just gonna state a couple things. I'm gonna have, kind of Gil's gonna make a statement. As you know, I'm sure you talked about with the attorney in closed session, there's very specific provision for removing somebody from a planning commission. Supervisor doesn't have the power to do it, you tried that. Board can't remove by an action on a consent agenda, you tried that. Board cannot remove on the basis of a meeting held in violation of the Meetings Act, which is what we just admitted is violated in front of the people here, and you revoked that action in order to have this chance again to take her off the planning commission. Talk to your attorney, she's told you what she thinks you need to do based on the information you have. I would submit to you that this is an enormous waste of time and resources of the township to remove her from the board. I would submit to you that malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance are what you have to show. We are going to, based on what you do here today, if you don't stop this action, vote no. Obviously, we're gonna continue legal action. It's gonna be decided in front of Judge Lisney as far as whether she thinks you met the requirements or not. I don't think you met the requirements. Yeah, I think you have an opportunity here to do the right thing, to have the opportunity to basically vote no on this and to let her finish out her term. You get to appoint the next person, I'm thinking it's probably not gonna be Connie at this point, but there's a reason why the statute's set up this way, to provide some separation between the township board and the planning commission. You can't just remove her for any reason or no reason at all. It's just reasons, malfeasance, and nonfeasance. I don't think you can show those things here. So I guess I would ask you guys to do the right thing, listen to what she has to say as well. And obviously, you've got some people here who'd like to tell it as well. Would that come?
I'd like to correct a couple of statements that you made.
If you want to real briefly, then we need to let the scale go through
Okay,
the presentation.
number one, he did not try to remove her as supervisor, that is not a true statement. You know, I look at it, you put it like an administrative leave, nothing happens till the board says it happens. So to me, that's a misstatement when you say, I tried to remove her. You know, I have to bring the recommendation back to her. I told her to cease and desist, she wasn't gonna be the planning commission, I'll give you that, but nothing happens till it goes to the board.
I would disagree on what you did and how you did it, but go ahead.
And as far as the consent agenda, there again, that's the way we've always done business here. I went back, you know, years in removing people from different boards, accepting resignations, it was done on a consent agenda. Obviously, we can't do that anymore. We're, you know, I don't have a tenure here. that's the reason things were done. I'm just following the way it was done in previous supervisors and that, so.
It definitely doesn't make it right.
I think the statement was, under the Open Meetings Act, you're allowed to reenact it. Is that what the board is doing today? Reenact a decision, or reenact a board meeting?
I mean, we're reenacting it, but.
Yeah,
we're having-
so you're having the meeting over again, regarding the June 17th decision of the board. Is that what we're
Yes.
doing today? Thank
So
you.
let me tell you our perspective of it. You didn't do it right the last time, so with the insistence of council, you're trying to do it right this time. And whatever conclusion you come to, other than voting to not remove it from office, is gonna end up before the judge. Still don't think you're doing it correctly. But that's my position as advocate, but I'm on the kind of talk.
I'm going to tell you this from my item in writing. Can you hear me from? Okay. The August 18th email by the clerk notified me of this latest event stated these documents were mailed to your home address today. I received it at the post office at Addison on Friday, August 20th. The notification of a public hearing was not published in the Hillsdale Daily News for the week of August 15th. The fourth different removal action against me as the chair of the planning commission was included in the email. I am summarizing this board's inappropriate actions of repeatedly stabbing me, including the specific reality the August hearing to remove me is after I have been removed by board approval on June 17, 2021. If at the special meeting the board reappoints me to the planning commission, I should not be subject to any of the purported new removal, even claiming misfeasance, malfeasance, and nonfeasance based upon items which purportedly took place prior to the June 17th board's removal of me from the planning commission. As noted through extensive detail in the June board hearing and my subsequent lawsuit filed based upon my removal from the planning commission at that board meeting, the supervisor, Tim Shaw, with support by clerk Mike Bonnet and the planning commission member, trustee David Pumphrey, has not followed law in removing me from the planning commission. The board has not followed their signed determination to adhere to ethics. The Somerset Township Principles of Government states, insist on the highest standards of ethical conduct by all who act on behalf of this township. Actively pursue education and knowledge. Practice openness and transparency in decisions and actions. Communication to the public township issues, challenges. Strive for compliance with all state requirements. The board truly does not read, understand, and outreach to the public in working on ordinances. Each member of the board was elected by the public and should truly understand the township. There are multiple indications of the board's continuous failure to comply with the principles of governance. In contrast to the board, my entire format was to represent the public within the context of truly following law, ethics, and getting the major issues completed in extensive review and outreach. One of the reasons I was removed from the planning commission at the June board meeting was undermining board of trustees by questioning board ethics. After I had been removed from the planning commission at the June board hearing, at the July 13th reorganized planning commission meeting, trustee David Pumphrey attended as a member of the planning commission. Supervisor Tim Shaw attended the July planning commission meeting along with zoning administrator Don Figel, who returned to his office once I had been removed. Supervisor Tim Shaw reached out to solicit planning commission members and others to write letters against me. This is the reality. There has been no backup for any of the accusations asserted by Supervisor Tim Shaw or Clerk Mike Bonnet in April, May, and June. The Board of Trustees did not respond to my attorney's June FOIA other than for Clerk Mike Bonnet to simply send, after the June hearing, the two complaints. The August 18th notification of a public hearing to again remove me from the planning commission but purportedly based on misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office. The assertion of misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance was not identified within the charges previously emanated, and a number of the charges were not even within misfeasance, which is unintentional noncompliance with law, malfeasance, intentional noncompliance with law, or nonfeasance, intentional inaction to perform an act required by law in office. The notification was provided to me and the township's attorney, but not to my attorney. It was stated the new action against me was due to rewording of the prior claims, acting with disrespect, township staff and officials, and all the other items my lawyer had mentioned. The zoning administrator's purported resignation was not truthful. The April, May, and June board meetings did not note this purported resignation, and now it was admitted that this was not resignation. The service by Richard R.O.A.R within the zoning ordinance office was not reflected as an appointment in the April, May, and June board meetings. The zoning administrator simply returned to his position when I was removed from the planning commission. As a member of the zoning board of appeals, I have worked with multiple secretaries of the zoning board of appeals, and there was no indication of resignation based upon my working to help them. The assessor, Jim Bradley, left years ago, and there was no indication of resignation based upon my inquiries as to the assessment of my and my husband's property, of which it was my husband who was the main person reviewing the assessment. The current assessor, Max Griffin, is still in office, and the property assessment was handled by my husband. Even if the wording includes those individuals who did not resign were upset with normal interactions, none of the named people were associated with the planning commission, and particularly my position on the planning commission. Also, charges predate my reappointment to the planning commission December 2020. In this recent August notification of a public hearing to again remove me from the planning commission, it was stated, monopolizing conversation during planning commission meetings to such a degree that it has prevented balanced conversation and an unbiased consideration of issues and requests. In reality, as chair of the planning commission, I provided the materials for the planning commission to review. This included documentation and input from the zoning administrator, the Region 2 Planning Commission, the township attorney, and the board of trustees. This included multiple written communications with attachments for the members of the planning commission, the zoning administrator, and the board of trustees to hopefully review and provide input. This included my consistency for the planning commission meetings to provide the written materials at the meetings, ask each member for their opinions, reach out to the zoning administrator, have discussions and proposals. Obviously, through this type of interaction, there would be consideration of issues and requests. The minutes do not reflect authenticity of the allegations. For example, March 2021 meeting noted, I sought additional input by the planning commission members. February 2021 meeting, discussion took place by all 4 commission members. David Humphrey was absent. November 2020, I polled the planning commission members. July 2020 meeting, each member of the planning commission attending the current meeting was asked to provide input. March 2020 meeting, I inquired of Region 2 Planning Commission, the zoning administrator, and planning commission members. The accusation by the board does not reflect honesty or reality of understanding how the planning commission proceeded. The next accusation, which was reworded in a more negative and inaccurate manner, noted management of township funds continued to spend money even when directed to stop, as noted by our attorney. The bylaws, this is important to understand reality. The bylaws of the planning commission approved by the board does not have any fiduciary situation responsible by the planning commission, and particularly by the chair. The fiduciary matters are entirely associated with the board of trustees, specifically the clerk, who receives the payment requests and responds to such. I was not in management of township funds. I would not have the fiduciary duty. If any planning commissioner would and should have such, it would be trustee David Humphrey. I was not directed to stop and even routinely inquired from the clerk and the supervisor for permissions. That's what I'm required to do. I was not personally spending township money. I continuously notified the board of the process being reviewed by the planning commission, which included updating the master plan and the zoning ordinance, including corrections of the zoning ordinance, and upon public input, Hillsdale County Planning Commission and the Township Board approval. The master plan would then need to reflect such changes. That's by law. The Region 2 Planning Commission and the Township Attorney directly communicated financial matters with the clerk. It had been previously noted, without information to the Planning Commission, the board included other financial interface through entities such as the zoning administrator. The supervisor had noted in the April 21, 2021 email regarding this type of accusation, I understand it is not all due. Within this context, it is realistically required for the board to provide all the documentations associated with this particular financial item from the time period this cost determination began through the present. This would include lawyer contacts by the board and the zoning administrator, Region 2 Planning Commission contacts by the board and the zoning administrator, separated those from those of the planning commission. There was minimal planning commission interface with the township attorney, and only by approval by the board. In 2021, there was limited interface with the Region 2 Planning Commission within the board's awareness of what was being engaged in by the Planning Commission. Further, as noted to the board, the Region 2 Planning Commission did not separate the bills as to projects from the zoning administrator and the Planning Commission. He reaffirmed that to me. Again, within this context, it is absolutely improper to remove the chair of the Planning Commission from office due to the board's inappropriate actions or non-actions in dealing with financial matters. The next accusation asserted refusal to complete zoning ordinance changes as required by the Township Board. The accusation was unauthentic. The board was aware due to COVID-19 issues of meeting inconsistency, including by the Planning Commission. The inability to complete the corrections of the zoning ordinance is through the board's approval of the chair of the Planning Commission and not even responding to the request for the Planning Commission to outreach to the township attorney. There is no support noted in the accusation and incorrect as to refusal or assertion of changes as required by the township board. The board was clearly aware and approved the updating of the zoning ordinance through 1, by presentation at the board meetings, and 2, written materials and interaction, including having a board trustee as a member of the Planning Commission. Even in May, it was obviously very clear the Planning Commission was close to completing the zoning ordinance updating. And as the appropriate step to proceed correctly, I had noted to the clerk, May 12, 2021, the need for board approval of the township's attorney review of the proposed zoning ordinance updated by the Planning Commission. The board did not respond, focused on removing me. As noted in the June 2nd, 2021 email to board and Planning Commission members, I have much documentation, I have kept it all, for updating the zoning ordinance, not Region 2 Planning Commission's proposal which had other things involved in it. The purported accusation should have been handled within interaction with the planning commissioners. Through the December 2020 board approval, I was renewed in office with clear indication I was asking for such to simply finish the master plan and zoning ordinance updating. Review of the Township of Somerset Board's abusive process since April 2021. 1. At the June public meeting, I explained Michigan Planning Enabling Act regarding based upon notifying the planning commission member through written charges of specified misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in work on the planning commission. Again, this fourth action against me does not comply with law, as to specify 3 different types of issues, or particularly relating to the work on the planning commission. 2, April board meeting did not note anything about me, but simply stated there was openness, plural, on the planning commission. The minutes were not accurate, as no member had left the planning commission until May. The minutes obviously did not reflect any hearings. I learned about my being removed from the planning commission after the board meeting and with no reasons asked to such. When I sought to understand the issues and contested the action, I was further criticized by Supervisor Tim Shaw, and the subsequent listing did not reflect the law. Supervisor Tim Shaw then purported in writing, I understand you have been contacting others. It was not something I took lightly. Outside of the master plan, I have seen nothing since to justify the amount of money spent. I would rather not discuss this at an open meeting, and then he continued he would if I wanted to. The reasons you are removed are quality people have resigned because of the issues with you, Jim, and now Don. I have had complaints from the planning committee members and will disclose them in an open meeting. You have had a negative impact on the budget. We have received negative emails from you calling us corrupt and saying you will go for a recall. In reality, as noted a number of times, including at the June hearing, the Planning Commission has spent considerable time in updating the zoning ordinance to reflect the updating of the master plan. The basic framework of the zoning ordinance corrected, approved by the board, and published on the website. And now the Planning Commission is working on actual issues. Hopefully there will be less expenditures given my no-cost work. I never asked for any money. The accusation as to my purported impact on Jim Bradley, the prior assessor, was an inaccurate accusation admitted as such by Supervisor Tim Shaw, and changed in another set of accusations. The April accusations asserted this assessor resigned due to me, and the May accusation asserted this assessor was negatively impacted by me. Further, this individual resigned from office in May 2018. I had been appointed to the Planning Commission January 2018, and the Planning Commission began review of the bylaws. There was never anything associated with the assessor. The claim about Don Fugel resigning after the second Blight Committee appears to be suspicious and was within framework of inaccuracy, and this was already admitted that was. The services by Richard R.O.A.R regarding me was not included, as I have mentioned. And then I was told through others that Don Fugel, whether or not this is accurate, was not continuing the zoning administrative services until the board removed me as the chair of the planning commission. So that's what I had to deal with. And then on the Blight, due to the April 14, 2021 Blight Committee meeting, where he had been removed as a chair by a majority of the committee, within their context, he was not a member of the committee. And other members moved and voted to have me appointed as chair. I did not have this as my presentation. The supervisor, Tim Shaw, ended the entire Blight Committee and noted such in the April 15th meeting, along with indication there were openings in the Planning Commission. The members of the Blight Committee were not informed of such other than through this board meeting. I was not informed of any removal from the Planning Commission until April 19th, and was in the framework of not disclosing any reason as to such. As for any complaints by Planning Commission's members, I had detailed in response to the second set of accusations the reality of repeatedly receiving affirmations by the Planning Commissioners, and if there were concerns, the members should have communicated with me for resolution, similar to what I would be obligated to do as a chair of the Planning Commission. Further, I have considerable documentation, including through the minutes, of interface with the Planning Commission members. Similar to all the accusations, the board did not provide any documentation reflecting the accusation, and at the July Planning Commission meeting framework, after I had been removed from the Planning Commission through the June board hearing, the supervisor requested people to write negative letters about me. The monetary issue has not within my responsibility, and it was even verified in the accusation that the entire amount even being used to accuse me is not at all due. I assert the reality that none of it was. The accusation as to receiving emails calling the board corrupt and calling for a recall of the entire board was not included in the second set of accusations, and Supervisor Tim Shaw even admitted I was not the one being blamed for the purported recall offense. There was also no written confirmation of these purported emails about corruption. There's also the ironic reality that a number of people at public board meetings, even at this recent August board meeting, have noted corruption by members of the board. The May 20, 2021 board meeting agenda on the consent agenda stated remove Connie Gale from the Planning Commission. In reality, as noted previously, the MSU extension article is a consent agenda right for your board, and it was indicated it was only for non-controversial items. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act indicates the removal of a member of the zoning commission is within written charges and after a public hearing pertaining to true reality of 3 items: misfeasance, nonfeasance, malfeasance. And as I had noted that before, the item was transferred to new business, and with a disagreement by Supervisor Tim Shaw, it was then moved until June. There was no reference to even the initial April or purportedly May listing of accusations. The May 13, 2021 meeting executive committee minutes did not conform to law, was never posted as actually taking place in May, and the clerk created the minutes June 7th. The board asserted these purported minutes were the context of the consent agenda back in May. The June 17, 2021 board meeting continued the next format to remove me from the Planning Commission. Again, not in conformance with state law as to public hearing based upon malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. The purported May executive committee meeting accusations were finally disclosed in June. My attorney noted again to the board it had not followed the law and had not responded to his FOIA request. The 3 board members present at the meeting did not respond to these actualities. I then presented nearly an hour of detailed response to the changed accusations. The 3 board members did not respond to these actualities, had no questions, and later, subsequent to Supervisor Tim Shaw's statement that he did not hear anything, they simply voted to remove me without any discussion regarding the very detailed matters brought to the board, which proved these past and current board procedures were against law and ethics. In summary of the inaccurate behaviors of Supervisor Tim Shaw detailed in the June hearing, he stated he was angry that I had simply inquired why he removed me from the Planning Commission. He indicated disagreement, my explanation of the legal requirements, and, I understand you in contacting others, it was not something I took lightly. And B, I noted one of my memos, emails sent to the board. The planning commission has spent considerable time in updating the zoning ordinance to reflect the updating of the master plan. The basic framework of the zoning ordinance is corrected, and now the planning commission is working on actual issues. Hopeful there will be less expenditures given my no-cost work. Supervisor Tim Shaw tried to prevent through multiple improper ways the planning commission's May 11th scheduled meeting. He told people not to attend so that I couldn't even have a meeting. I had noted the multiple emails over many years communicating with the township, which included routinely seeking input from the board of trustees, the zoning administrator, the planning commission, the ZBA, and others. My personal meetings, conversations with members of the planning commission and the board of trustees, even in my home. I noted realities of the November 2020 created Light Civil Infraction Committee, which included the initial chair, board trustee David Pumphrey, not calling any meeting from November 2020 through February 2021. Trustee David Pumphrey had asked me to outreach to the members for possible meeting dates, which I did in early November 2020, and noted such to trustee David Pumphrey. November 7th and 9th, which was not responded to. The second chair, appointed by Supervisor Tim Shaw, was the zoning administrator, Don Fidel. We began the first meeting on March 30th, and after the committee members determined at the April 14th meeting a new chair in context of truly reaching out for legal review, public input, and actual understanding of the township and the proposals, Supervisor Tim Shaw eliminated the entire blight committee the very following day and along with me. I provided substantial information as to my personal ethics of honesty, helping people, adhering to law, and truly representing the public. This included my volunteering as a mediator, helping the hospital, serving in a number of churches, and helping a number of government units, state, federal, and Somerset Township, even when I was not serving in the planning commission. I noted the July 2020 email sent to the planning commission and the board of trustees, which detailed positives I had brought to the township through my efforts, my compliance with law and ethics, my willingness to meet with each one of the individuals, my help to those in the township government, the written appreciations included by the township supervisor. I noted my framework of following the law, including within the zoning board of appeals and truly representing the public, including those in the agricultural zoned areas which were having issues. I detailed the assessment issue as fictionalized and irrelevant to the planning commission, and the financial issues wrongly brought against me was noted as incorrect. Now, the planning commission kangaroo court realities after eliminating the chair. It's again, the membership shall be representative of important segments of the community, also be representative of the entire territory. The Board of Trustees has over years repeatedly not followed the state law regarding the Planning Enabling Act requirements. Also, the Planning Commission members should certainly be familiar with law, bylaws, master plan, and zoning ordinance. If the context is taking power over the township and adopting proposals without true knowledge not only of law, but also of the township, this can cause legal issues as well. The Open Meetings Act of 15269 specifies there must be minutes, proposed minutes available for public inspection within 8 business days after the applicable meeting. And the bylaws, if the minutes were not properly worded, then at the next meeting, the corrected minutes must show the original entry and the corrections. That's by law. As chair of the planning commission, I work with the secretary to have proposed minutes within a good context, send it to the other planning commission members for any other comments or corrections, and within the proper framework, be able to submit the proposed minutes within 8 business days to the clerk for publication, and generally not have to further note changes to the minutes at the next meeting, which would actually become part of the publication by law. Supervisor Tim Shaw utilized a similar effort by me with the secretaries of the Zoning Board of Appeals as a reason to remove me from the Planning Commission. The July Planning Commission meeting was after I had been removed. The minutes of the Planning Commission for the July 13th meeting needed to be reviewed by the Planning Commission members to determine if the draft to be sent to the Secretary represented the actuality of the meeting. I inquired if the Planning Commission Chair had received a copy of the minutes noted by Ray York in his August 4th email to her that he had drafted such, and she indicated she hadn't received the minutes. The minutes of the July 13, 2021 Planning Committee meeting was not posted on the township website within the 8 business days, and even on the day of August 19th board meeting, and as far as I knew, up until noon today, it had not been posted. The clerk needed to assure the public had notification of the meeting through the minutes published on the township website. The supervisor indicated in the July 22 meeting minutes to follow would be provided and needed to assure his statement was truthful. The July 22nd Board of Trustees meetings was the 7th business day after the meeting of the Planning Commission. The Open Meetings Act specifies the notice of regular commission meetings are to be posted within 10 days after the commission's first meeting in a calendar year. The rest are special meetings. They need to be approved by the board. Supervisor said they should have every month a meeting. In additional irony, the chair of the Planning Commission explained there is no reality, including the financing of such, to have a special meeting in August. Within the August 4th email to the Planning Commission chair, Ray York detailed the 2 proposed ordinances from Gary Gruenberg received by the Planning Commission, which Tim Shaw and Don Figel attended, and within the framework that Ray York indicated there would be an August Planning Commission meeting. In further realities of the township issues, at the August 19th meeting of the board, the Planning Commission chair denied seeing one of the proposals, the supervisor denied seeing one of the proposals, and the remaining board members, including trustee David Humphrey, who also attended the Planning Commission meeting, denied knowing one of the proposals. And Don Fidel, the zoning administrator, did not clarify the meeting that matter. I am being multiply harassed over months by the Board of Trustees, particularly the supervisor, Tim Shaw. Does the public like to play with such offensive? The board has received the minutes of May 11th Planning Commission meeting, which I served as chair. They clearly indicated the considerable review of the former Planning Commission, not just the chair, of the updating of the zoning ordinance with the approval to conform to law, ethics, process of determinations, to have the township attorney review such prior to have the public hearing and other legal requirements. I submitted the inquiry to the board to have approval to move forward to the township attorney, obviously within the context of financing of such. The board did not respond and continued to focus on the removal of me within the context of the latest new wording of going after me. Refusal to complete zoning ordinance changes as required by the township board. There is again obvious chosen denial to comply with law as to the Planning Commission making the initial determination through work, outreach to the public, and having a public hearing outreach to the Hillsdale County Planning Commission and other entities and submitting a proposal to the Board of Trustees to determine. There was also obvious cause of denial to admit the years of repeated input to the board that to save money, properly review items, and other realities, the Planning Commission chair spends considerable time not only in meeting with the Region 2 Planning Commission on the township attorney, only as necessary, but at no cost to the township, reviewing and correcting based upon the inputs from the Region 2 Planning Commission and the township attorney. If the board had not indulged in all of the kangaroo court negativeness, then zoning ordinance would have been very close to simply finishing with the master plan updating then being put in place. The board has engaged in blight and other ordinances as their determination to proceed and harass the township residents. There was no true respect for the multiple issues taking place due to the COVID-19 change, including participation in meetings, the realities of agricultural zoned areas, the realities of lake districts beyond certain people within one lake district, the true aging of the population, and all other matters. The board obviously wants to indulge in negativity, avoid law and ethics, and take over those who do try to comply with law and ethics. The four actions of going after me for no reason other than that framework has negatively impacted me and others.
Can I discuss some of those items?
So,
Respond to.
we're in a public comment, so you may want to hold your, board's
Okay.
discussion
Go
right now until you get public comment. Everybody's 3 minutes,
Okay.
at a
Got
time. I just don't know if you want to take a break or anything, you want to just keep going.
Okay, keep going.
Okay.
Well, it's been a year now, I told you guys.
Would you give your name? for the
John
record?
Smith, Somerset here. Told you a year ago that once you start going down that blight road, other things pop up, and that's exactly what's going on here. I've never seen a community come out clean, unscathed, once they kick back on that blight ordinance. Just so this audience knows, a lot of people here know, I was put on a blight committee with Connie. I was the secretary of that. I have the minutes and recording, audio recording of that, so if anybody wants that, I have it readily available. It doesn't show that Connie's dominating anything conversation. If anything, it's me dominating more than anything. But I asked Don Figel 15 questions in a row because it's a serious topic. We're talking about going after citizens and attacking citizens. So with an ordinance, so I have to get my questions answered. And he took offense to those questions. The position that I got from local authority here is that they wanted a blight ordinance in place no matter what.
No matter what.
And how they wanted it quick, and without us really asking these questions. I was the secretary, and I worked with Connie just fine on that. We weren't friends prior to this. We never hung out before. And Don actually quit on our second blight ordinance meeting. He quit, left the board, and sat in the audience. He quit because we voted him off his chair because he didn't live in our community, one. Two, he's a zoning administrator, so he stands to benefit if we give him more jobs here to tax citizens. He personally, financially benefits from that. That he does not need to be the board, or he doesn't need to be chair of that board. We didn't kick him or remove him off the board, we moved him as the chair. And he quit on his own. Since going through this issue with Connie and whatnot, with this administration, I FOIA'd 17 FOIAs. I was charged $279 for 17 FOIAs, where a majority of those FOIAs didn't have any response other than they just didn't have it. And that was the majority of it. So I just want you to understand the kind of reflection that this board has towards the citizens when they want transparency. The projection of malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance is extraordinary here because that's what I see on this board. It's just extraordinary. And, Connie never mentioned recall to me. I mentioned that to Connie. And it would save us a lot of headache of that recall if we just get the resignations. Okay, thank you.
I've known Connie for quite some time. The one thing that made, I'm sorry, Mary Chesney, go ahead, Calvin. The one thing that I know about Connie is that her main concern are the welfare of the citizens of this township. She has always been very concerned, very caring, she's very competent, and very intelligent. From what I've heard from you saying tonight, it sounds to me like a lot of guys don't like to be criticized. But Connie spoke her mind. Connie has always been an honest person. If there's something going on that she doesn't like, she'll speak up about it. Thank God. I'm glad that she does. I think that her getting on the planning commission, I really, really was happy about that. Because I've seen Connie's work, and I know her primary concern is the welfare of the people in this township. Now, that being said, I have one quick question that doesn't concern Connie. The ordinance that we discussed at the last meeting, it was my understanding that it was going to be thrown out, the blight ordinance. Since then, I've heard a lot of comments about the board actually knew about it, the board actually signed it, they want it enforced. Is that blight ordinance going to be enforced in this community?
I'm gonna respond as there is no blight ordinance.
So the ordinance that we discussed at the last meeting, you're telling me that it's gone and out forever?
I don't know who brought it up. I don't know if it's
Several
wrong.
people.
I didn't bring it up, so.
I know you
the
did.
person that
Several,
brought
it
up.
was during public comment. Several people brought it up. And you guys all said that you had never seen it and didn't know anything about it. And I will tell you that since then, just for your information, what's going around this community is that in fact you did know about it. Whether you did or not, I have no idea. My main concern is that it not be enforced because it would be a slap in the face for this entire community. I believe somebody gave you a copy.
Yes, I have looked through it now.
And is
I'll
that-
have a comment on that after.
Okay, all right, then that's all I have to say. Removing Connie from the planning commission was a huge mistake in my mind. The community needs Connie.
Thanks very much.
Good afternoon, I'm Richard R.O.A.R. I was the planning secretary from 2018 until June. I just wanted to make a few comments because my name was brought up, my position was brought up, and I wanted to mention from my perspective, I enjoyed working with Connie. I have nothing against Connie. But somewhere near the end of last year, Connie started in a direction, there were three things that made me a little uncomfortable. One was some of the advertising and letters that she wrote in the newspaper in Brooklyn. I work in Norville Township, and we as a township are being looked at for those letters. And they were being brought up to me as I looked at it out. The second thing was that Connie was not really listening to us, and she was monopolizing planning commission meetings, and that bothered me. And the third thing was that we, as a planning commission, had made an agreement. It was brought to our attention when Region 2 first looked at our records. They said that they couldn't live within their $12,000 budget. There was a huge scope difference, and that was all the handwritten records that we had had for years and years that we had never incorporated. And that was gonna add to the cost of our zoning ordinance. I asked them to provide us with a budget for that extra scope, and they didn't do that. And they continued to work on that, and I know it was needed, but they never provided us with that budgeting until the end, when we found out there was another $4,000. So that concerned me because we went over budget by that amount of money. And I asked continually to have an update on what our budget was going to be for those additional changes, because we were also discussing those changes, and I wanted to know where we're headed. So, anyway, we came to an agreement that we were gonna go along with Region Two. We were gonna let them do the reformatting of our ordinance. And then we were gonna proceed with adopting that reformatting, incorporating all of the handwritten notes. And that was gonna be our draft that we would implement. And then we would go back and only revisit important issues that we felt the community needed. Signage, accessory buildings, those were two of the main items that we were going to revisit. Nothing else. Connie had a very big problem with a lot of the wording in the ordinance. She decided on her own to go meet with Region Two and spent approximately 8 hours going over, changing this word, changing that word, things that I didn't feel that we were gonna get a payback for. And that was concerning me.
Every 3 minutes, Richard.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, my name's R.O.A.R. from Lake Leanne. My name was put up too, and so I just thought I'd mention what happened here. We had a meeting of the town, planning commission on Tuesday, July 13th. I have an email here that was sent to Namu, July 14th at 4:32 a.m. Anybody that knows me knows that's how I work. We had the meeting, we got the minutes. The process that Connie told you about, of how it was set up, I'm the one that set that up, the secretary. It's a process that I learned in my career, and I brought it to the planning commission. To get it out, to get it to the members. That's not the way it happened before. It was sent to us before from the state. I changed it. And that's the process. So, after the meeting at 4:32, the message was given. At July 14th, 9:13, 5 hours later, dear Ray, thank you for the minutes presented. Email from him. The only thing under section 6 unfinished business is spelling error. And I changed the spelling error. The minutes do reflect accuracy at this time. That's well done. Thank you for your efforts, Ray. Etc. It was then sent to all the people, as you know, because you had to approve it. I do have another email here. Minutes. They're sent to they were sent to excuse me. Mike, this was sent on the 19th. That's after all people knew it. That's only from 13th to 96 days, right? Mike, though I'm not the secretary of the planning commission, I was asked to take the minutes from last BC. Please find a copy of the attached minutes. Thank you, Ray. Mike, at 12:56, good afternoon, Ray. Posted minutes on our website today regarding Mike. I don't know if they were posted or not. Since they're not there, they may not be there. Those are the emails following the process that we did from BC. That's the data. I'm send it to anybody that wants it. I think I'll leave it at that.
What were these minutes about?
The planning commission meeting.
No,
latest
no,
ones.
we're not yelling at each other. If you wanna come up and ask a question or make public comment, go ahead, but we're not yelling at each other. This is a public hearing.
Thank
But to clarify, the planning commission meeting, that on the 13th, I was not the secretary. I had been the secretary before. I volunteered to do it for that meeting. To make sure I was asked to do it, so I did it for that meeting. And so I followed a process. I thought I was very efficient at it. I was called in, that I didn't do my job. I felt I did the job.
Anybody else?
I'm Curtis Gale, I am Connie's husband, but I want to address something that's been a long-term thing. There have been many enforcement issues that I have been told within the township that we couldn't proceed on easily, such as having people remove tires or people parking commercial vehicles in residential areas. And these issues have been going on for years. And yet I was informed at the last township meeting that enforcement issues about these issues are going on right now. In fact, there's a resident that I understand will be in court tomorrow because of commercial parking in residential areas. I have been told for years by the zoning administrator that they couldn't do anything about this because it wasn't covered. But every inquiry I have made about the ordinances and so on, I have been told the books are a mess, that they don't really know if they've been properly signed. Some of them are in their notebook upside down. They finally put them in the library so, as I understand it, people can go look. But the bottom line is they were a mess. And even though these issues have been going on for so long, this only in the last month that somehow the zoning administrator has figured he can actually do something about it. It would seem to me it should have been done a long time ago. And when you accept these things going on and don't enforce your own ordinances, you create a lot of chaos within the community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Boone, and I was on the Parks and Rec committee, and we were abruptly fired last year. The whole committee was disbanded. So Connie Gale's situation here reminds me of shades of that. I didn't bring up writing implement, so therefore I hadn't taken, couldn't find it. I didn't take notes, but every time Connie spoke of something about like having a meeting with Tim, I was warned to not have a private meeting with Tim, but that was after I'd already had a private meeting with Tim. And then it was, I hear you've been talking to people. Something was scolded similarly to what Connie Gale was scolded to. The books are a mess in Parks and Rec, and has been for years. There's a lot of policies and procedures, but to fire people, I guess I started first taking note of things being, I lived here as a child up until about 20, I guess. It was our lake house, and then I moved away, and I just recently come back here part-time. But the shades, there's a whole lot of stuff that even like today, we don't have any witnesses. There was hearsay. Oh, there's some people said this and some people said that. Well, who said it? Who said it? When did they say it? What did they say exactly? And why aren't they here now to even discuss who said what? I think there's a pattern of dismissing people. I know the police chief, Eric, was let go last year sometime. I wasn't taking notes then. Nobody seems to know who and when and why he was, whether that's public knowledge. We don't know why our whole Parks and Rec committee that was actually just signed in and just read their oath a short while later. I think we had one meeting and then it was disbanded. We all complained about Josh, and then we voted him as a non-voting member, and then we voted to approach the board about having a new liaison attached to Parks and Rec because we felt like he was spending money irresponsibly and some of his ideas just didn't jive with the message. And then all of a sudden the whole thing was disbanded. I actually called, I may have left a message for Connie Gale. I talked to Don Fidel. I may have called you and told people that we have all, the whole thing's just disbanded. Can he do that? People's first reactions were, I don't think he can do that. I don't think he can do that. Can they do that? I don't think they can do that. I heard that from everyone that called. Everybody felt that way. apparently he just didn't. So there's a pattern here. It's a pattern of unilateral decisions. I don't think, we got a good old boys club here. Doesn't bother me. I'd like to recall them all myself.
You know, I said, my name's Jeff Underwood. I don't know if any of you guys know the history of Tim Shaw with the Addison Fire Department. But this man has caused that township a lot of hassle. Looks like he's doing the same here. I got paperwork states that he had falsified receipts to cover his ass on credit cards. Does anybody here want to know what our audit should be? What's being spent here? This is getting to be a lot of shit. I don't know who to trust. I definitely can't trust you with all the reports I have on here.
Yeah.
So I think you need to take and resign, or we're gonna go through.
Anyone else?
Motion to close?
Were you gonna discuss that ordinance?
We're on County Gail today, we're talking about County Gail today. So, the public comment on County Gail is done, then they're gonna close that public hearing, and they're gonna deliberate on County Gail.
Tim wanted to make some public comment.
Yes, yes, please.
Hello, my name is Molly Gavinsky. I've known Connie for, I don't know, we've been out here since '83, since they moved out. I think she's a very fair-minded individual. She's got a good square stance on things. She listens to sides, she listens to people, and I don't think she thinks individually. I think what happened here today not only is confusing, but seems horrifyingly unjustifiable. To fire an individual, only to call her back in, try and reinstate her, to fire her again. That's a whole lot of hoo-ha. And I don't like it, and I think that things need to be looked into here. That's all I have to say.
Yes?
Donna Raines. And my second meeting, only a different kind, but I'm getting a little confused. I mean, there's a lot going here. There's a lot out in the open for the attorney. We weren't arguing. We just can't hear you people that talk about that. So I talk loud, so we don't have a problem. And but as far as y'all going over and saying this is the way it was done years ago, I don't know. You know, I would have went into. I want to do it better than years ago, and then you know your hassles and your problems probably would subside a little bit instead of following something bad. Start something good, and do the bylaws. Most things go by bylaws. I mean, I've been there plenty of times, and I know bylaws are your number one. That's your rules. And Connie, I'm sorry that I didn't know you, but you definitely sound like you're getting the raps. I mean, for anybody that gets fired and hired and fired again, that's a lot of wasted money. I mean, that's just a lot of wasted time. I mean, you all have your own ideas, but it's still a one-sided story. Because I wasn't here, I didn't know what was going on, but thank God I have neighbors. But I don't want to get involved in this, but I think y'all can do better. I mean, really, everybody can do better. You have to get along. I mean, you don't come along and pick on the farmers because they have stuff in their fields. I don't have a field, but I have stuff. As you know, I don't have a garage, so I have stuff in my yard. But as far as the blight, we were told that wasn't going to happen at the end of the meeting. by the young lady, the law, whoever she was, who we voted for. She said that, she was gonna go back to her commission and, you know, that wasn't gonna happen. And then you guys said you really didn't know what was going on, and then people are saying, well, you did know what was going on. Sounds like somebody was lying here. But, you know, we can do better. I mean, talk to the people. Don't go against the people. We are the township, not you guys. We are the township. I mean, you have to help us. You don't, these people have been born and raised here. I've only been here 15 years, and I love the country. But you're trying to act like the big city because I moved out of the city because of the problems that people, you know, we had twice as many on our council. So you know where I'm coming from. It's not everybody likes, but you guys all seem to stick together, so that's a good thing. At least there's no fighting amongst you. But I just wish that you could, you know, if you have questions, listen to the people. You know, take care of it. No private meetings. That doesn't go. That doesn't go so well. He said, she said, nobody can. Thank you. Okay.
Anybody else? Anybody else wish to speak, public comment? Now's your chance. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing at this time.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Becker,
Yes.
Humphrey,
Yes.
Glad, yes, Shaw.
Yes. Well, we have a discussion on the motion. I'll open the floor to the board. How deep can I go here? There's allegations that were made about this blight, and I asked not to use that word, but everybody chooses to use that word because I think it's a trigger word that gets everybody upset and everybody gets stirred up because we use that word. The issues that we had, the reason that committee, when you're making accusations about me as far as that committee goes, September last year, I asked Dave Humphrey, the chair of the meeting, and I asked the planning commission chair, and I asked our zoning administrator to be a part of a committee to put together a ordinance for junk and trash, and, you know, it was sent in as a blight ordinance. And I said, if we don't like that word, let's please choose something else, but we need to do something. Doing nothing was not an option. So I met with those three people. There were four of us: Don Figel, Connie Gale, Dave Humphrey, and myself. We started to put together a committee. I asked for 5 people. I wanted one person north of 12, one person south of 12. And during that meeting, Connie asked to have 4 other people put on. I have a 9-member committee. I says, you gotta understand, you get to the point, you have too many people, you don't get anything done. But I went along with it, and they all agreed that they would have something to present to the planning commission or this board by December 31. And they never even had a meeting. 2 weeks after we had that meeting, Dave Humphrey called me and said, and this is where a false statement comes in, Tim, I can't make the phone calls, I don't have the time to chair this, can I pass this off to Connie? And I said, I don't care who chairs it, how it gets done, please just work on it and get it done, because, you know, as many people we have in here, we're getting that many complaints about the blight issue. And so Dave did that. Connie called me, said, Dave done this, I'm gonna take over it. I said, all right, please just get it done. And December comes by, January comes by, and Don Figel asked me, because he's told us that the attorney tells us that we cannot do anything really with what we have. So we need something, and that's where I said again, doing nothing is not an option. And that's exactly what happened. Don called me, I don't know, in February, I don't remember, everything was done verbal, you know, and I guess that's I've never been able to take notes and write things down. Maybe I should.
You'll learn.
Yeah.
But I probably never, it's been 61 years, I'll probably not change. And John called me, says, I need something to be able to base some of these accusations on, and go after these people we've been going after for 5 years. We do have complaints. Yes, I do believe it's on your property, you have a right to do what you want. And I even stated at the organizational meeting with the 4 of us were sitting there, and I says, this is not geared towards ag. Leave ag out of it as much as you can, it doesn't have to go through there. And, so Don called me, I said, Don, call a meeting, please, because at that time it was kind of, the restrictions were left up. But we had a board meeting via Zoom, they could have done the same thing. And if it upset me, yes, that there was nothing being done. And everybody's just to blame as much, I can probably accept some responsibility because I was not getting any reports. And when they had the meeting, had another meeting, and basically all they did, Connie sat over in the corner, never said a word, just staring at her papers. And, they basically, in my mind, were harassing Don. That's all it was about. And Don didn't live in the area.
That is a lie.
In my mind, sir.
Well, you didn't come to the second meeting, and you're the one that started the whole ordeal of getting you removed.
This is not public comment.
I don't care.
I know you don't.
This is,
Please.
that's bullshit.
Yeah, it is blatant lies.
And so, at that point is when I said, there's really no reason to have this committee. And we took it down, and Josh, I don't know, he saw me at the hardware, that's when he said something to Gary about writing something up, because Gary was talking about it, and Josh just said, why don't you write it up? And as I stated at that time, at the public meeting of this board right here, it's a piece of paper until the planning commission hands it to this board and says, this is what we want to do, and then this board acts on it. Other than that, it's words on a piece of paper. It means nothing. Just like that ordinance that they presented the other night. That was a boilerplate ordinance, probably came from some suburban area. And that's what actually sparked, after I got to reading it, I realized it's the one that was sent to Dan York, because that's where I tracked back who started this. And the gentleman that just left is the one that went and solicited everybody, that this was law, this was gonna happen. And it's never even discussed at the planning committee, let alone this board. And this is where the decisions are made. We represent 4,600 people. I appreciate your input, I really do. Public comment is done. And to move off from that, that's pretty much in a nutshell, a Reader's Digest version of what happened as far as that ordinance goes.
But the people
Anybody
feel
else
that
want-
you're just gonna pass something.
They can't pass anything except at a public meeting, and then a notice of ordinance adoption has to be published. All right? So they need, so for them to adopt an ordinance, all right, first of all, a blight ordinance doesn't even go through the planning commission because it doesn't have to deal with zoning, okay? So a blight ordinance or a noise ordinance or a junk vehicle ordinance is gonna come to this board. It doesn't have to go through the planning commission. They could send it there if they want the planning
Then why are we here
commission's
about
input.
Connie?
We're here about Connie because she sued the township.
Yeah, but
Okay,
this is what
that's
this is
why.
about, right?
No. We're
So
here
you're
about
saying it'll be a
Connie.
public meeting before
So-
that's ever enacted?
So, yes, so
Yeah.
no ordinance can be adopted without being at a public meeting. And then after adoption, a notice of ordinance adoption has to be published in the newspaper within a certain amount of time, a different amount of time for a zoning ordinance than a regulatory or police car ordinance, and you would all be able to see that notice in the paper. You would be able to come in and look at a copy of the ordinance.
So you're saying that we would have an opportunity
Yeah.
to tell you what we think
So
about the
just so-
It would be the
just so
same
you know-
format as what we just
Right.
did today.
Right,
Okay.
so just so you know though, no requirement under law for a public hearing on a police power or a regulatory ordinance. Zoning ordinance, yes, and that goes to the planning commission, there's a notice public hearing, so all that may happen. But yes, at every public meeting, there has to be a public comment period. So yes, if anything regarding the blight ordinance, if they say they haven't adopted one, then it's not adopted, it's not law, okay? If that's helpful at any point.
But you just said it didn't even have to go to the planning commission.
It doesn't. If it's a regulatory ordinance, it doesn't have
I
to.
understand, and he said it had to, and that's
If
why
you-
it was
so
sent to
if they
him.
want to
He
refer-
also has it
if
on
they
the
want to
agenda
refer-
every month.
So if they want to refer to the planning commission, they can. Maybe they want the planning commission's input. And if they want it, they can ask for it.
I believe, to step on that again, I believe this board, I will speak for everybody here, that if we do adopt an ordinance in that manner, it will go to the planning commission.
Perfect.
And if these guys say
Do we
no.
get to vote on it?
That's, this.
You guys.
They vote on
Pardon me?
it.
You guys just vote?
My recommendation would be to send it to the planning commission, you guys decide on the wording of it, and that's basically what's already happened.
No,
And then
no
you'll
written
bring it back to
complaints.
this board.
No written complaints either on blight here.
So that's how the ordinances, in my mind, should take place in this township.
Doesn't Hillsdale County have its own laws for this?
No.
I don't know.
Not at all.
We're gonna go back to what we were dealing with.
Leave it up to you guys.
All right, we're gonna move on now. If we want to discuss this, we'll discuss this portion of it at our next meeting during public comment, even questions, Again, I'll refer back to public comment is a public comment, it's not a debate session, okay? If you have a question, get it to us prior to, or we'll get it back to you after the meeting or at the next meeting. That's the way public comment is supposed to work. And I agree with you, we can get better, but we're all learning here. The request for letters from other people, that did not happen. I talked to people that I got information from and asked if we had an affidavit for you to sign that you made this statement, would you sign it? I did not ask them to send letters in for anything. There's been an accusation that I hung up on the Region 2 Planning Committee guy, or Region 2 Grant is his name. That is a false statement. I happened to call him the day Connie was there, and had a couple words with him. In his response, I knew something was going on. At that point, he advised me that she was there, and I said, we'll talk later. I did hang up, I guess, but as far as the terminology hang up on him, I would say no. And she made a comment about when I said that the accusations from Jim Bradley, when I said it was incorrect, is because Mike had an error. Jim Bailey, a friend of ours from church, he wrote his name in. That's why it was incorrect. Mike corrected that and put in Jim. Well, actually, that's what our attorney read tonight. She had an old copy instead of a new copy where it says Bradley. That's what was incorrect on that. I want to reiterate the fact of our May meeting when Mike and I met. The reason we had to go through the steps we had to go through tonight, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, I screwed up. I did not have it publicized, Mike didn't post it or whatever, that we were having this executive meeting. I have been trained to discipline in private, praise in public. And, I didn't really care about having, and that's what I told her in the, this is the hardest thing I've got to do here. And that's what I told her, and she's admitted that. But in the public hearing, I don't want to bash anybody. I don't care even, he has the right to speak and say what he wants to say. I mean, he's got to keep it organized here, but I stand on the First Amendment, Second, whatever. He has the right to say what he wants, whether it's accurate or whether it's not. It's best to keep things accurate, honest, up front. I'm not perfect, I'll admit that. I mean, those of you who know me for a number of years. As far as the FOIAs, the comment was made about the FOIAs, there was 20 or 21 of them.
17.
And the fact that he was charged saying for basic, because we had to do the research. And if you have to go through your computer, because it was such a blanket request that we still had to do the same amount of work. Okay, we had to go through all the emails and different things. Mike did it, I did it, the police officer did it. So yes, it took a lot of time to find nothing. we covered the blight ordinance and the budget. And I'll let that one go because, well, there was reference on similarities. The park commission was disbanded. It was when we first got on here, we made 9-member board. That was what was requested by the park committee. We had 9 people on the park committee. And so we had actually 5 or 7 where they asked to move it up to 9. Okay, we'll move it up. They had 9 people. It got down to 1 person.
Not
Because
true.
people couldn't
Not true.
work with her.
Not true. False statement.
It's an actual fact. And
Not
then we disbanded that group. They had an issue with Josh. You brought 2 people in towards the end.
3. We had 5.
And so I couldn't wait to the point our planning commission got to that level. And I'll let the last statement about me and the Anniston Fire Department, I'll let that go. But as far as some of the accusations that were made here tonight, you know, everybody's got a right to their opinion, everybody has a right to speak their mind. But again, let's keep it as close to facts as we can.
Good job on the
Yourself.
notes, so you can do it. Good job.
I don't know, the projection, I just,
Okay,
it's
stop.
ridiculous.
This-
You're in deliberations, deliberate.
Okay, I would like to make a statement to the board. As you know, in your board package every month, if the planning commission meets, the minutes of the planning commission are in the board package. I will go back to, and the same thing is true with Park and Rec. There are report items that have documentation that are part of the minutes to the board meeting. I will go back and look at the website and make sure that we've got everything posted properly. And I can't tell you right now of the acquisition that Curtis made regarding I think Connie said the same thing. There was a minutes not on the website, but you certainly know, month after month, that the minutes for the planning commission, the minutes for the Parks and Rec are in the board package if they have a meeting. So I'll go back and check on the website.
My only statement, you know, I was not available on June, before the June board meeting, and I later watched the video of it, and Connie's attorney gave this board 3 options that night. One was continue with your board action, reinstate Connie, or table it until the next meeting when the full board was here. At that point, there was a decision made to continue with the board action, which brought us to this. I'm busy. I'm very busy. As a successful business owner in this community, I'm very busy. So I take my board responsibilities very seriously, and it's something that I come to each meeting prepared, and I like to think that all of our board members do the same thing. I think that we try to put in and do our best work. This is one of the areas where I don't think we've done our best work. And at the end of the day, I think that, you know, we need to evaluate and think about when we aren't getting the performance we need out of a committee member or a chair, or for that matter, anyone that we've tasked with something, that we have a mechanism that isn't just fire and remove versus try to bring that person up to speed and give them an opportunity to do things. COVID last year created a lot of difficulties for a lot of people. I think all of us adjusted. We had Zoom meetings. We're able to do what we need to do and take care of as much township business as we could. Personally, I wanted to violate the stay-at-home orders and come and be in person myself. I'm that kind of person. The heck with it. So, at the end of the day, but we had to conform to what was by law through the governor last year. So, at any rate, do I think we did our best work? No. Do I think that we as a board have tried over the last number of years to spend the money of the township and do the things that are necessary to conduct township business in a very mindful manner? Yes, I do. And I think the budget reflects that. So, I think we're doing okay with certain things, but there's other areas where we could improve. And that's all I'll say.
Okay, to the board, I'd make a comment on transparency. When we first came together as a board, we did not have a report on the financials monthly, and I introduced a report called the flash report. And the flash report looked at the expenditures for the month, and it examined how we got our revenue, what our expenditures were, and it told month by month the story of our financial position. And that report we put in for transparency, so it'd be available to everybody. It's a handout on the table at every board meeting. Secondly, as we heard, conversation and feedback from the residents on one of the meetings we had, I tabled the meeting on the subject. And it was deferred because at that point we realized that we might not be going down the right path. So it's not a transparency issue or an integrity issue because we stopped what we were doing. We tabled that decision and went forward to another meeting. So we tried to be transparent. We tried to keep the information in front of the public, and that's where I'm at on that.
One comment that I have to make is regarding Richard's R.O.A.R on our budget, being over 4,000. I remember Richard being 6,500, but we can probably clarify that through the minutes. But I couldn't agree more with the board, and that's what I've got to say.
So you have a motion on the floor, which was to remove Connie Gale. We've had the discussion, we've discussed amendments, you've heard a lot of public comment.
Who motioned it?
Public hearing. The very first thing they did when they came out of closed session was they motioned it. I can look back in my minutes, but, so, that's on the floor. So you've heard the discussion, and as you know, you have to make a conclusion that either malfeasance, nonfeasance, or misfeasance in office has been demonstrated by Ms. Gale, in order to make that finding. So if you think that has been the case, you can discuss why you think that's the case. If you think that's not the case, or that something else should happen, you can discuss it as well. And if I may, the reason this is being done today is not to punish Connie Gale, but there was a violation of the Open Meetings Act, as has been discussed by Ms. Gale and by her attorney. Based on that, I think it was May executive meeting. Under the Open Meetings Act, one thing the township can do to essentially limit its damages is to reenact the meeting. So that's what they're doing. This is not to punish Ms. Gale, this is not to make her go through a difficult situation again. It is to, number one, make sure that this decision happens in a public meeting as required by law. There was a public hearing, it was scheduled, it's not required to be published in the paper. She was given notice, she received notice in the mail, and obviously it was posted, and a lot of people found out about the meeting and are here. So I just want to make that comment on the board's behalf, that the reason they're doing this is not to be vindictive or punishing, it's to follow the Open Meetings Act and correct the mistakes they made on the previous May meeting.
Any further discussion? What are the board's wishes? Do you want to take a vote on it? Or do you want to take it back? I do believe we have enough for misfeasance, and I do believe we have enough for non-feasance. I don't believe for a second there was any malfeasance.
I would disagree with that in terms of, I know we have a motion on the floor, it's been supported, but again, we are looking at 4 individuals of the board. The 5th person is not here, and quite frankly, I think that, well, the board can take the action that it would like to take. That's, you know, and my personal, I guess, I would like the full board to be present, but apparently that's not been the case. So I'm prepared to take a vote, myself personally, and I can speak for myself, I can't speak for.
Okay,
So are you suggesting that we should table it, or what are you saying?
I'm simply saying that, we've got a motion, we've got support, we have a quorum, we can take a vote.
What's the motion?
I, myself, think that 5 members to something to this degree has, you know, should vote. But obviously, that wasn't done in June.
It was wrong then, it's wrong now, Steve.
So I'm suggesting, Mike, we've got a motion, we have support, and we have a quorum.
Well, or you can withdraw the motion if you want to, and then someone can make a motion to table it, that's an option. So there's, you know, a variety of options in this one.
the withdrawal of the motion, I don't have a problem with that. And we table it till September meeting, and we have 3 people show up. How far to kick the can down the road? You know what I'm saying, just make a motion that we are gonna make a decision on September, or whatever the date that meeting is.
Who's planning commission chair now?
Yeah,
Stop talking.
in no fashion. I mean, are you okay with that? I mean, I'm okay with it, I'm okay with it.
I said I'm prepared to take a vote right now. So, I'm prepared to take a vote. I don't believe in kicking things down the road, but I just wanna put it out there for my, because of the way things went down in June.
Right.
I don't want a repeat of things going down in August like they went down in June. So, I just bring that to the table as a comment to the rest of the board. I am
Steve,
prepared to
let me
make a
ask a
vote.
question. Based on the fact we have a lawyer here, and we've been coached up to follow the law, and to do all the things that we're supposed to do, and we had the closed hearing to discuss all that, you don't think maybe that we're going the right way?
No, I didn't say that, Mike.
Okay.
I didn't say that. I said it had nothing to do with procedural matters.
All right.
The procedural matters were very clear from the beginning of where we went wrong. In my earlier statement, I think I made that clear.
Yeah, we rescinded that so that we write
Correct.
like slick things.
That's null and, no, it's not a point. It's
Right.
null and void. I'm prepared to take a vote.
Roll call vote, please.
So just to refresh, the motion, and it was made at the beginning of the meeting after the medical session, was to remove Connie Gale for misfeasance, malfeasance, or nonfeasance in office upon certain written charges, and that I stood up and read out loud. And that was the motion, okay? So now they're gonna vote on this motion by a roll call vote.
Should it not be specific which of those 3?
They're going to vote, I don't disagree with you, but they're going to vote on the motion and based on the discussion and that they've had. There's just some comments by the supervisor that I heard and took down. I'm preparing the minutes, they'll be ready within 8 business days. So how many business days we do? All right?
Okay, Beckley,
No.
Humphrey,
Yes.
Donat, yes, Shaw,
Yes. Motion carries. Actually, we'll open the floor back up to public comment this time. Mr. Hitt, you want to speak, or you just stand?
I'm just broken.
Just to clarify, Johnson, if you have to clarify, at the last planning commission meeting, then if technically, if Connie was removed illegally and people are put on that board, was that meeting a legit meeting?
Yes, because you had more than, you had, a number, I'm sure there was a form there, right?
Well, they made someone a chair and
Yeah, so was there a form of the planning commission there?
I would assume so.
Okay.
After
It's legal.
Okay, all right, that's on.
Ray York, Lake Leanne. Right now, I am on the planning commission. I don't know for how long, but I am there now. One thing I'd like to clear, when we talk about the blight, or whatever you wanna call it, it's not intended for agricultural. It's only intended for residential lake property in that zone area. That's the way it's intended in my mind. That's the only way that if it can't be approved that way, that it doesn't get approved. Because it's not intended for agriculture at all. Never was in my mind. It's always been.
That's just for the lake piece.
Pardon?
Just for the lake piece.
Just, well, the lake resident community.
Right.
Yeah. That's what it's for. That's residential. And that's where the problem is, and that's all it should be directed for, from my point of view, for what it's for.
One question.
Okay.
I was just
You're
wondering.
welcome to make a comment. Just keep up.
My name's Kathy Farnsworth, I live on Calvin Road, I'm an agricultural girl. That's all well and good, Mr. York, I appreciate what you said, and I understand what you said. You would like the township to enforce an ordinance for the lake communities. Guess what? That is not the job of the township. The lake communities have their own enforcing boards called lake associations, both of them. It is their responsibility to enforce their rules and regulations upon their citizens. Therefore, this blight, a litter, whatever kind of ordinance you want to call it, should not come before the Township of Somerset to be enforced by the Township of Somerset, to use the funds of Township of Somerset, to use the resources at the police department of the Township of Somerset. Do it yourself.
You have something, Barb?
Yes, I just wanted to ask if it was going to be written up that way, but Ms. Farnsworth has answered or spoken on my concern for that.
Anybody else? Yes, sir. Richard.
Richard LaRoe, I wanted to clarify one other thing, I ran out of time, but when Don turned in his resignation, and he was given a weekend to decide, he made his decision, and I was called in by Mike, and I met with you, Tim and Mike, and I was offered the job permanently. It was a real resignation, it was a real offer, and I declined. And then I was asked, since I had the experience and I had the planning knowledge, would I be willing to temporarily serve until either Don came back or a new person could be found and hired. And that was the agreement that I made, that I would help out the township to do that. There was no coercion, there was no pre-planning, and there was no fake about any of it. And I stayed on until such time that one of those happened.
Thank you, Richard. Good. Mr. Hitt?
Jim Hitt, Somerset Township or Mercer Road. And I'd like to speak for the people on the fact that when we see these ordinances come across, people get scared because they feel like that It's just gonna come and you're gonna vote on it, and then it's gonna be, regardless of public comment, that you're just gonna vote and make it law.
Yep.
And what it does, when it gets on paper, regardless if it's below the lake, or below 12 or above 12, if it gets on paper, it becomes what we consider law, and then it makes us lawbreakers if we aren't compliant. And we don't wanna be criminals. We just wanna live in liberty and peace. And when we have property that we worked all of our lives for, it's kind of an invasion for any infringement. And we don't want to have infringement. That's what our Constitution says, that shall not be infringed. It says it in the Second Amendment, but it means it for all of them. Our personal rights to property, the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that's all something we do for ourselves, that we don't, it's not either your duty nor your responsibility to protect us, or to, the Constitution, or the Supreme Court already ruled on that. It's neither your duty nor your obligation to protect us.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else wish to address the board? Going once. Next meeting will be September 16, 2021, 7 o'clock here. Thank you all.
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll support that. All in favor, aye.
Oh, Facebook, I post on the page.
Do you have to be friends with that? Yeah. Are people commenting?
Oh, no, I'll make it. No, I'll make it public.
Oh, okay. Do people comment or you just know?
Yeah, people comment.
Really? What they say?
No, it's mostly highs and stuff like that. Nobody's commented yet for this.
Oh.
They don't know what's going on.